Welcome to the Be That Healing Girl podcast. And today on this episode, we're going to talk about what you need to know to stop overthinking your relationship. And I don't know if you're new here, but if you are, I talk about this all day, every day. And honestly, I love it. I can't get enough of it. And I have been noticing this kind of theme in my DMs and with my clients, and I just thought I'd make an episode on this, on what you're probably doing wrong in your attempt to heal your relationship anxiety or anxious attachment. Because if you're overthinking your relationship, it is highly, highly likely that you have this issue in your relationships, relationship anxiety or anxious attachment. So make sure to hang around. I'm going to drop some really solid tips on what you're probably doing wrong so that you can actually stop doing them yourself. So let's do it. And if you're new here, my name is Claire. I am a relationship coach and I love helping high-performing, overachieving, maybe type A girlies who are slaying in their career, but you are sucking in your relationships. And that can be a whole range of whether you're in medical school, you are a medical doctor, you're academic, you're a career crusher, you're climbing the corporate ladder, or you're an entrepreneur. I just notice these themes in my clients again and again where they are highly successful. And by the way, success is not limited to you being successful at your career. I also have clients who are married and home with the kids. Arguably, that is the hardest job out there. And maybe you left a career to do that. So just know that these have many definitions, but I will say particularly that the women that I tend to support you guys are overachievers. That's just hands down. That's the thing. So if that is you, then you're in good company. And also I have been noticing the reviews on the podcast. Oh my gosh, I think I just saw 70 reviews on Spotify. If you are enjoying this episode or any of the other episodes, hitting the 5 stars means so much. It seriously is like one click of the button. And I am watching literally every week. Thank you so much if you've done that. And just hit the star. It takes nothing. So thanks for doing that. Let's dive in, because I know that this is a topic that I love sharing because this was my experience. And I'll even say this wasn't just my dating experience. This even was in my early stages of my marriage. And quite honestly, I see different forms of it now. And here's what I just want to say around overthinking and how I approach it and what I notice with my clients. And I had a client of mine who was sharing, well, it's not completely gone, my overthinking. And I'm like, well, yeah, because thinking is part of what we do as humans. And we need to have critical thinking. And I just don't even want to go down that road around what I think these days around a lot of us who are not using critical thinking. I'm just thinking about politics. But anyway, we need critical thinking. We need to discern and we need to use our brain to make good decisions. And while that is important, there's like a whole spectrum of that. And you might be on the spectrum that is not necessarily critically thinking or making discernments in your relationship, but instead you're spiraling, you're spinning, you're thinking the same thoughts over and over again. And so I just want to make that important distinction. As you are discerning, how can I tell if I'm actually just using my logical, critical thinking brain or if I am spiraling out, okay? And I'll just say this is what you need to know, that there is a difference between spiraling and having the same thought again and again and again. They don't like me. What did I do wrong? Did I push them away? Or something like that, versus being able to critically think. And what you need to know is if you are in a state where your body is activated, your nervous system is activated, and the simple term for that is if you are dysregulated, meaning you are in a fight or flight, then yeah, it is highly likely that you are not critically thinking. Okay, I say that with so much love, but is probably not what's happening. Instead, you're acting from literally your lizard brain, all right? The science around this is really clear. We have different parts of our brain, and when we're in dysregulation, when our nervous system is activated, we are seriously just thinking and acting usually from our brainstem. It's like literal survival brain. And when we get activated, when we feel that fear. By the way, if you didn't know this, I don't edit my podcast. This is seriously like one shot because this is the brand, y'all. I don't believe in perfection. There's no such thing as being perfect in a relationship. So just FYI. Let me say this again. So our fear brain, when it's activated, we can't make those distinctions. It's literally our nervous system takes over and we cannot think with our logical brain. So a lot of times I notice with my clients, they feel really ashamed and like really frustrated because they're smart, okay? To go to medical school, to open 3 businesses, to climb a corporate ladder, you have to be smart. There's just no other way around it. And what I notice is that it causes a lot of shame for a lot of you because you feel like you know better. And a lot of times, this is like a classic hallmark thing when I work with clients. Logically, in your brain, you know that you shouldn't send the 5 pages of text. You shouldn't call him 17 times, okay? And I'll just speak personally, I would feel so ashamed, but at the same time, I couldn't help myself. I had to send the text. I had to say the thing. And sometimes dysregulation will show up as just like word vomit. And so what we need to know is it's actually not your logical brain. The part of you that knows better, that knows that this is probably not appropriate and I probably should take a chill pill, that's not the part of your body that is acting out. So what you need to know is that the difference between a regulated nervous system and a dysregulated nervous system. And I don't like saying this word, but I'm only going to say it because it's out there. And I just want to be clear that this is like not a term that I use flippantly, but I'll just use it in describing myself. Like I felt like I was crazy. I felt like I was feeling so disconnected from what my mind wanted to do, but I couldn't help this part of me. And so again, I don't use that word lightly, but you're not crazy. I was not crazy. I was dysregulated. My nervous system was in overdrive. I was feeling the fear and I was straight up just acting from a place of fear. And so that in simple explanation and simple terms is you are not yourself. You are acting from a dysregulated state where you're not thinking rationally and you're coming from a place of fear. So when it comes to overthinking, that is a fear mechanism, okay? That is essentially your brain trying to protect itself. And I actually have seen this a few times, and you can make the distinction right now, because if you are really clear that this is how it has to be, then honestly, I love you, but I'm not the person for you. Like, I'm not the best person to listen to because this is not going to land for you. So keep going. But I could definitely relate to thinking, well, this is just how I am. This is the way that I do it. I have to think about these things. And there's a combination of not just your system is dysregulated, your nervous system is dysregulated, but also the conditioning, who you think you are. And this is like a big topic, but really you are not your thoughts. All right. You are totally separate than your thoughts. And this is like dipping our toes into the spirituality realm. And I'm not going to hide that. This is part of it. But when we start to understand that we are not our thoughts, that really our thoughts were given to us, our brains learn through association. So it's the patterns are how you defend yourself when you're feeling fear. So we know on a body level, okay, I feel fear, and I start down this whole defensive mechanism. I have my lizard brain's turned on. I can't think with my brain, my logical brain. There's another layer to this, which is why when I work with clients, it's a very holistic approach of mind, body, and spirit. But then there's this other layer that we don't even understand, and you need to know that there's the body response, but then there's also our response into our conditioning. And so if you have ever said, well, I've thought it, And so, I thought about it. So then it happened. Like, I love you so much, but that is not what's happening. I love you, but you don't have a magic 8 ball. Well, maybe you have a magic 8 ball, but you don't have a magic wand like Harry Potter. You aren't God. Like nobody's out there thinking things into happening. Overthinking is a mechanism which you have maybe learned that if I can think about what I need to do, then it'll happen. And that's actually not what's causing the thing to happen. So overthinking is a defense mechanism that we sometimes we literally talk ourselves into thinking that that's reality, and it's not. But what could be happening is that we have thoughts, and our thoughts impact our actions and our behavior. So if we are thinking bad things happen, we are acting as though bad things happen. We are making choices like bad things are going to happen. What do you think's going to happen? I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that out, because our thoughts impact our choices and impact how we behave. So it's not the overthinking that got you in that place, even though it might feel like that. But again, you're not God. You don't have a magic wand. That's not what's happening. But it does, our thoughts impact our choices, our behavior, and all of that's connected. So it's almost like this vicious cycle where, oh, I think bad things are going to happen, so they happen. No, that's not what's happening. And I just want to say that it's really simple to shift how you perceive things. And a lot of times we don't even recognize that we're overthinking in the attempt, because we're not actually feeling our feelings. And I would say this is a big piece around what you need to know around the overthinking, is that the overthinking is not going to solve the problem. And a lot of times we are taught in our society that intellectualizing, that knowing something is important. And really, the reality is we are totally displaced from feeling our feelings. I'll call myself out. I would say I've had multiple spiritual awakenings at this point, but I had a big awakening around 2020, 2021 that I had thought up to that point. And I think, how old was I? I was like, mid-30, something like that. I'm not going to age myself, but I had no clue that I had been stuffing down, ignoring, avoiding, and distracting from feeling. And once I started understanding how to feel my feelings, how to look at my subconscious, have a healthy relationship with it, when I started to understand, oh my gosh, I'm not crazy, this is just my dysregulated nervous system, when I started putting all those pieces together that I had no clue about, because we are not taught. We are not. It's just like, I have yet to meet somebody, very few people, I take that back. Very, very few people, and I consider them to be like walking angels on earth, are actually taught how to feel our feelings, where feelings were maybe never valued, they were never safe, they were dismissed, they were told to get over it. But I had no clue that I was not feeling my feelings. What I now can understand at that point was I was emotional, but I was not in right relationship with my emotions. And there is a huge difference between being able to process your emotions and being emotional. And I call that emotional intelligence, emotional regulation. There's a huge difference between I'm crying all the time, which, by the way, crying is great. I'm a huge crier. Believe me, I've made peace of that. I am a crier. But there's a big difference between being emotional and experiencing the emotions versus processing them and regulating them. And there's like a whole different conversation about that. But I would think, well, I'm not emotional, and I don't cry. In fact, when I was in my 20s, that was like something I said. Oh, I cringe at young Claire, and I love her, I bless her, when I would say, I don't cry. Crying is for babies. Crying is weak, because guess what? That's what I thought about feelings, but those thoughts were not my thoughts. Those were given to me. I took that on. Somebody had told me that before. So, yeah, I didn't understand how to process feelings, to be with my emotions, and it was showing up because I was tamping all of that down. I was becoming overly emotional when I really shouldn't be, right? Like when small things would happen, I'd get really worked up, really overwhelmed because I wasn't having a healthy relationship with my emotions. So, lots of things that I kind of opened the box on, and I just want to say that these are things that I'm only sharing these things because I myself did not know them until I started on the long path, and I spent a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of investment of everything into this healing process. And it's also why I'm really passionate about it. I can talk about it all day, every day, and I do, because we all deserve, you deserve, your birthright is to feel love and joy and peace inside yourself. And we don't know what we don't know. So understanding, wow, am I being emotional, or am I actually in right relationship with my emotions? Am I overthinking because I'm trying to protect myself? Am I crazy, or am I just dysregulated? These are things that I know myself personally I struggled with, and I know that you can work through them. And if you are at all wanting support, needing that, I am open to talking about clients. In fact, I will just say this: my one-on-one clients are on a wait list, but I have some really fun things coming out. And make sure you just are on the email list or checking out my IG stories, because I got some really fun things coming up for the summer, different ways that I can support you in more accessible ways that can really make the difference in overthinking and your relationship anxiety and your anxious attachment. I believe in you. I love you. Catch you soon. Mwah.